balayage is the train that everyone's riding right now. Whether your customers call it balayage, or they call it balayage, whatever they call it, the reality is the consumer is asking for it really, really big. The number one complaint that we find as artists in the field, and a very asked question is, how can you get your balayage to be more consistent? How can I get it a little bit lighter? I have a huge problem with all that. So here's a couple good tips and tricks that you can do to do balayage. How many of us have ever been in the salon and you get Mufasa to sit in your chair and you've committed to a full head of balayage and all of a sudden you're like knee deep and you're like, I can't do it anymore.
I'm out.
I'm gonna fall out, right? So what do you start doing? Because you've overcommitted at this point. You start to do what? Foil, right? Because you balayage the nape beautifully, and all of a sudden you're halfway in. It's like at Bridesmaids. She's like, I overcommitted. 7 dogs is a bit much. It's like 7 pounds of hair is a bit much. So we start to foil. So here's a really good tip and trick to do when you're doing balayage. If you wet the hair down with a little bit of water, so mist it, your balayages would work a lot quicker. And here's why. When you dampen the hair down and you apply the lightener to it, it's easier for the lightener to actually slip through the hair. So you're gonna have less opportunity for spots, but most importantly, the lightener is working with you and not against you. Lightener gets tripped up on hair that's dry, because you have to constantly recomb it and repress it and what's the word I'm looking for? Dissolve the line or make the line disappear. I don't know what word I'm looking for, that's not the word. Diffuse, thank you, to diffuse the line. So by using a little bit of water and dampening the hair down first, it's going to help with your application. Here's step 2 though. So we're gonna use our LANZA foiling board. What I love about this board, it's got a handle on it. So it makes it really super simple for you to use and it's less cumbersome. I'm gonna go ahead and apply my lightener through the mid-lengths and ends, but notice as I'm doing it, I'm going on a direct angle and I'm not going in on a horizontal. Lightener, the minute it touches the hair, it creates lift. So by going on a diagonal, you're going to have a better opportunity to blur that line out. Now remember what I talked about earlier when I said the biggest complaint we tend to hear is it doesn't get light enough. Why do you think balayage doesn't get light enough? It dries. The air you breathe kills the lift in your hair color, bottom line. So if we can keep our product moist with content, it's going to work well and lift straight through. So here's a really good tip. How many of us have these in our salon? Remember these? They're probably sitting right now on your dryer in the back room with a thick thing of lint dust on the top of them, right? Take these after you're done applying the color through the ends. Notice I only applied my color halfway straight through. I'm now gonna roll her ends up on this rod and I'm gonna pull up. Now as I'm doing that, I'm also creating some tension now that I can work on. I'm gonna take my brush, or you can take your color sponge, which if you have our Vibes kits, which is part of the LANZA Healing Hair Color line, currently right now we are selling these sponge brushes, which are made out of the same material as our color brushes are. So they work really, really well with an alkaline source like lightener. I'm gonna go ahead and dip my brush in, and I'm gonna begin to literally push and pull, push and pull, push and pull my product straight through. The reason why this works so well is I have tension. So I can't really dip my brush in too far. It doesn't let me. It makes me stay on the surface because of the tension. Once I'm done, I'm gonna go ahead and tie these 2 pieces in, and I'm gonna start to lay it on our neck. And as you can see, I'm sure you can imagine, as we do this, it begins to stack, 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 stack. Because of the rod being so cumbersome, it doesn't allow the hair to actually touch at the base. You'll have absolutely 0 bleeding. And you'll maintain moisture content 100%. So all you would do now is brick lay in the back of the head. So remember, spritz down the hair first to create a little bit of dampness to the hair. You could take your customer to the shampoo bowl, just make sure they're not dripping wet. Once you're done doing that, you're gonna go ahead and start applying your lightener to the mid-lengths and ends, but you're gonna go on an angle. Begin to wrap it around the perm rod, and then you're gonna start to brush up with a sponge or a brush. My only suggestion is if you're gonna use a color brush, always make sure you use a flat side and never the teeth side. This is what creates the actual demarcations in the hair because you're driving the brush too far into the structure. So you definitely wanna make sure you're gliding it more on top. Again, using this sponge, which becomes part of our Vibes kit, is an amazing sponge. If you've never seen or worked with something like this works awesome for many, many techniques, but I definitely love it more or less for balayage. It's a really, really great tool.